Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. So happy to be with you today. I hope wherever you are choosing joy. That's our focus today, and I just wanted to start out right away saying it out loud. Choose joy. That we understand it is a choice, that we can make that choice every day in every moment. It's such a powerful thing to recognize the power of choice. That in and of itself for everything in our lives, but the power and understanding that you have the power to choose joy can be transformative. And so I want to let you all know that I am coming to you from my happy place, from Sag Harbor, Long Island in the Hamptons, where I come every summer to rejuvenate, to fill my cup, and also to work. But this year, for the first time in a long time, I took off the first week of coming. So literally made it a vacation, a time to be with family and friends. And I'm so grateful that I did. I don't know if you remember, I probably said it out loud last year when I was here. While it was a wonderful experience, I literally did not take off one single full day from work. I just got myself and my family here and was grateful that I was super busy with work and I just kept plowing through because I work with multiple clients. At a certain point when I realized, oh, I need a day off, I wasn't able to do it because there would be one project that was on a pause, and then but there was another one where I had some kind of really important responsibility. And so this time, with great intention, I cleared my plate, put the week on hold. My family did the same, and we were able to be together and just chill and do whatever we wanted to do. And that actually, there wasn't all that much chilling. It was really busy, but it was good busy. And so I want to encourage you to schedule time for you. Literally schedule time off. As an entrepreneur, I find sometimes that's really difficult to do. But what isn't difficult? Life is filled with many challenges, but if you don't choose yourself first, if you don't make the time, carve out the time to be present for yourself, nobody else is going to do that for you. And I am absolutely grateful I did it. I hope you took some time off as this next wave of the beautiful warm weather season has begun. And if not, that you would choose to do that as soon as you can. So today I wanted to talk about choosing joy and what that means, especially in the context of everyday life. So if you are, and I know you are, a human being just like I am, doesn't matter what your station in life, meaning what your work is, how much money you make, who your loved ones are, where you physically are in this exact moment. Actually, those things change from person to person. But what you can do with your life and the attitude you can have for your life is completely under your control. You can choose to look at what's going on in your world and be comfortable and happy with it and extract the goodness, or you can choose to be annoyed, angry, frustrated, whatever it might be. I was just at a beautiful, I guess, week of activities for a good friend of mine, the artist Renee Cox. And she's been making art, really empowerment art, for the past 30 years, up thereabouts. And she had a beautiful opening and exhibition at a place called Guildhall out here in East Hampton. And yesterday, there was a talk between her and the scholar and uh, MacArthur Fellow, brilliant woman, Deborah Willis. And as they were talking, one of the pieces of inspiration for me was around this new work that Renee has recently made that she calls soul culture. And it is incredibly complicated and has tremendous depth. And you just have to look it up or come to the show so you can see it's the human form um, in multiplicity, let's say. There are a lot of cutouts, fractals, she calls them. And anyhow, the point of it was, I asked the question during the Q&A part, where it came from. Where did this tremendously complicated, detailed, symmetrical work come from within her? And she follows the uh, wisdom and teachings of Eckhart Tolle. And she talked about how he says that wisdom comes in stillness. And, I practice meditation, have for 30 years. Absolutely. It's in that space of stillness where creativity emerges. And when she talked about that, her experience was that it she had reached a low point. She was in a beautiful place. Her life was seemingly wonderful, and yet she reached a very low point and was reading his book, and this understanding emerged, and she had a shift in consciousness because she had been really down, depressed, and decided, based upon what she was learning, that she didn't have to stay in that place. She didn't have to stay stuck. I wonder if any of you have ever felt like that you're feeling stuck, feeling lost, feeling emotionally depleted. And then recognizing from that still place, you can have a change of heart. You can have like a switch can turn on within your soul. And from that place, joy can emerge. It was really wonderful hearing her talk about what happened in her experience and what happened in her work. Her work, her artwork changed as a result of her going inside, connecting to her spirit, being in that still, quiet space and allowing whatever was inside to emerge. And the art is extraordinary. And I thought that was something worth contemplating for all of us. Like, you don't have to be a fine artist. You don't have to have your work in museums and galleries, etc., like Renee, but you do have to have the awareness that you can choose joy even if you're in a place that doesn't feel joyful. Even if you may be surrounded by amazing things, but that amazing feeling isn't there. You have the ability to cut past, push past, jump beyond the murkiness that can exist in your life and choose to step into your joy, choose to see the goodness in the moment. In her case, in Renee's case, there was an explosion of artwork that came from it. That's not going to be most people's stories, but let me tell you, while I was out here, just in day-to-day life, good things happen, other things happen. And when I found myself getting into conflict with anyone else, or even with what I felt I was doing right or wrong, I paused and reminded myself that I'm in my happy place and I'm going to stay happy. I'm not going to allow whatever this moment is to derail me. And I can address it or not and move on. There was something very empowering about that. Like, let's see if any of you have had this experience. And it's not a diss, but I've been married 30 years. So there was a moment, more than one, when there was agitation, let's say, between my husband and me. And I was mad. Like, what? Why'd you say that? Why'd you do that? And all ready to, dig my heels in and have an attitude about what I felt justified in having my position. And then I realized I don't want to kill my joy. I don't want to get derailed because we got into some kind of disagreement. Usually, by the way, it's over nothing important, but it is the little things that make the difference. And when I noticed, oh, my attitude is changing. I'm allowing my joy to kind of seep out. I stopped myself. I said what I had to say, so I addressed it. I didn't hold it in. I found that to be important. I didn't like this. I wish this didn't happen. Whatever it was, I said it calmly. I didn't yell. And then I moved on. And I decided I'm going to choose my joy. Same thing happened. We're out and about, hanging out with lots of people, doing lots of things. And that saying, people talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. Even if you're in the flow doing all the things, having a great time, you're not able to do everything. And so there were a couple of moments when I learned about activities that people that I know in the community were doing, and I wasn't included. I had, telling the truth, I had a moment, a beat where I was like, why wasn't I invited to that? And I want to tell you, I was proud of myself. In a blink, I let it go. Now, that takes practice. So, I mean, you can really feel a particular way if people you care about are doing something super fun. You're right there with them and you're not part of it. But guess what? You can't do everything. And I was having a lot of fun doing what I was doing. And I'm mentioning this. I like to mention these moments in my life to give you examples because maybe it'll inspire something in yours. But literally, we were having a great time, right? We were having a fantastic time. How do you go from having a fantastic time to having a moment where you're like, oh no, I'm not doing that? Because you're human. Because you're human. And if you recognize, ooh, that was a human thought, that was me just feeling what they call FOMO and deciding I don't have to get myself sucked into that. I can enjoy this moment and be happy. And I did that in so many different ways. There were 2 evenings when I was tired and folks were out and about doing this and that, and they were inviting me to stuff. And I said, you know what? I need to go to sleep. I need to not hang out however long because I need to get rest. I need to go to sleep. That was me taking care of me. And I'm mentioning it to you because I wonder, how often do you find yourself in situations where, moment to moment, we have a choice. How we choose to show up, how we choose to be in a particular moment will directly impact our state. I want you to think about this for yourself because it's literally moment to moment. So that's why I gave those examples. So when I speak about my friend Renee Cox, in her case, and I see my assistant put up the link to my conversation with her on Dreamleapers. I hope you download that and you can watch that later. Renee's a brilliant artist. And as brilliant as she is, she got stuck and going inside to her heart and allowing her heart, her soul to speak to her. Out of that space came this incredibly beautiful new body of work. For me, checking in to my spirit over and over. How are you doing? What are you doing? Are you making conscious choices to just find happiness and find joy? And when I did that every day this week, it made a huge difference. And so I'm hoping that you can remember that in when you make the conscious decision that no matter what's going on, you can extract joy from that moment. You really can. And I often tell you about my mother, my beautiful mother, Doris Cole, who's 93 years old, who has limited mobility now. There's a lot of limitations in her physical world. And she chooses joy every day. So much so that the people who work in the place where she lives always tell us how much they love her because when she sees them, she gives them a big smile. She makes sure that she connects to their joy. So together, there's this boom. It's like a cymbal hitting the gong of a cymbal, the two cymbals hitting together of joy. And so you can't tell me if a 93-year-old who's primarily wheelchair bound can find joy every day and relish in the life she currently has, even though she knows it's not the same as the life she had before. What about us? So let's go to the quote. You know, I've got this. I always look for quotes that can help us to consider where we are today. And this one is from a woman who ran for president, Marianne Williamson, but that's not why we know her. The quote is, "Joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are." Huh? Isn't that great? Let me read it to you again. Joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are. And I want you to hear this and know that this is not meant for rich people. This is not meant for some exclusive group of people somewhere else who, well, they have joy. Things are really good for them because they've done this, and that in their life. That's that almost like the reverse of FOMO when you can look at somebody over there and say, when I get there, when this happens for me, when I get that job, when I get that partner, when I make that money, when I do whatever it might be, that's when I'm going to find my joy. No, it's got to be on the journey. There was a book I read, I think I was probably in high school. It was called The Road Less Traveled. I don't know if any of you read that book. I'm going to go back and find some quotes from there for us too, because it was an incredible book. But The Road Less Traveled talks about making choices, conscious choices about how you're going to live your life, and then walking the path of those choices, walking that road. It's likely not the road that your friends are following, that your parents are following. Of course, the values that were instilled in you live with you, help to guide your path. But in that book, the point was you have to choose your path. You have to choose your road. And whatever you choose is going to lead you to wherever you're going to go. And if you're not paying attention, you're not being conscious, then your choices are going to lead you possibly stumbling somewhere. And you're like, wait a minute, how did I get here? Has that ever happened to you? Where you end up someplace, you're like, how in the world did I get here? how did I get myself in this predicament? So, you know how I often talk about when you start pointing your finger at others, complaining about what somebody did to you, for you, against you, something, usually it's a complaint, it's negative. When you start doing that, I say wrestle that finger back around and point it at yourself. Why? Because wherever you are, wherever you have reached, if you are honest with yourself, it's because of something you did. Now, it doesn't mean you're responsible for everything. Emergencies happen, disasters happen, life happens. But how do you deal with it? And whatever your circumstances are, if you evaluate them to look and see, how did I get here? How did my choices get me to this moment? Right? I am here to tell you your choices have led you to the place where you are today. So Shari just wrote, and she says that this really speaks to her. She's currently facing some challenges in her life right now that require her to actively choose joy every single day. Shari, yes. And guess what? All of us have to choose joy every day. When we don't, it's the little things that trip us up. But Shari, I want to say to you and everybody else, when you're having challenges, so you have to really reach and, it's almost like choosing joy can feel like choosing that lifeline. That if you don't do it, what will happen? And again, I give a lot of examples because I think that the examples can help you perhaps to see something in your life. I remember when I was in college, I had a wonderful education. I made a lot of great friends. And at one point, I had what I thought was a wonderful boyfriend who turned out to be a terrible boyfriend. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I really felt like I gave him my soul. I was lost. He appeared one way, turned out to be another way, but because I felt this incredible soul connection to him, I did not pay attention to any of the signs, those signs that were screaming and saying, this is not good. This is not where your joy lies. This is not where you should be. In retrospect, I see the signs were there, loud and clear. But I wanted to believe that this man was different from what he was showing himself to be at a certain point. I gave my joy away. I did. And it felt like I gave my soul away. It took a violent act. And honestly, if I tell the truth, that probably wouldn't have even been the breaking point, but my sister was living with me. It took a violent act and then having to go home to her. And this is my younger sister, my heart. And I couldn't have her see me allow myself to be in this situation and stay there. And through the grace of God and the presence of my sister, there was a turning point. Why do I mention this? I allowed someone else to steal my joy. I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time, although in retrospect, yes, there were many signs. I didn't want to believe that he was the person he was showing himself to be. And so in my mind, he wasn't. Well, that's not how life works. You need to see what's in front of you, accept what's in front of you, and make smart decisions for your life as a result of it. I tell my daughter all the time, as she is coming into herself as a young woman, make smart decisions. Think things through all the way to the end. When bad things happen, reassess so that you can figure out your way forward. Trust your heart and soul. Don't trust the mystery or the fantasy. Trust what is before you. And so let's go back to that quote again from Marianne Williamson, who is just a very inspirational woman. When she ran for president I knew she wasn't going to win, but I also knew just because her base is not the same, but not big enough, I would say. But her messaging was so important. And this message today from Marianne Williamson says, joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are. I want to ask you, have any of you traveled around the world? Have you gone to other places in the world where there's tremendous need? So this speaks to that too. Joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are. I've traveled many places. I was in India recently. I'm on the board of a charity called Prasad that actively works with people in India and Mexico and in the United States to help them to live the most fulfilled lives that they can. These people often do not have water. Many of them have to walk miles for water, and when they get it, it's not necessarily clean. We help them to build wells sometimes so that they don't have to walk those miles for water. There's so many things when we go and visit them to support them that just for me is humbling because I realize some of the things that I take for granted, they don't have. And yet there's something they do have, joy. When you see these people, this is just one group of folks, but walking down the street in the hot sun, many times barefoot, their shoulders aren't crunched over, their shoulders are up. They are walking with dignity and seemingly living in joy, in that connection to their hearts. And I find that so inspiring. And I know when it doesn't happen, like again, going back to my friend Renee, she was in San Francisco a couple weeks ago and I talked to her from there. Actually, my broadcast with her was from there. And she said, she and then another woman who lives in San Francisco called it the same thing. They said it was like the zombie apocalypse. There were hundreds. Renee described it as a pack of like 500, what we now say unhoused, unhomed people. Most of these people were apparently drug addicted, just walking around in town and up to no good because they've lost that spirit connection. And I compare these folks to the ones that I saw in India walking upright, connected to the goodness that they could find in the moment. And it worries me. It breaks my heart. I bet you it breaks yours too, just to know that there are people who are that lost for whatever the reasons. And COVID, the pandemic, pushed out so many more people, thousands of people, maybe more than thousands, from their jobs and their homes. And as this population grows, what can we do to help them re-engage their joy? There are folks who are committed to that. And, you might be inspired to be committed to that. Today, that's not the message. I was just pointing out to you, whatever our circumstances, you can stand in joy. You can find joy. You can reactivate joy like I did after that bad relationship. And by the way, that doesn't mean it was reactivated forever. You have to reactivate it every day, right, Sherry? Every day. When you wake up, you have to choose joy every day. What Renee talked about is every time the bad thoughts come in, you say, bye-bye thoughts. I want to have the good thoughts. It's an active engagement to choose joy. For yourself right now, choosing joy can make the difference for you and everyone whose lives you touch. That is a huge first step. You might not be able to currently impact that pack of 500 in San Francisco and growing all over the United States and the world. But if you choose joy for yourself right now, and you choose to see the goodness in other people actively right now, you choose not to talk about people. You choose not to disparage people in your head. You choose to see the goodness and activate the goodness. When you do that, life gets better. Life gets better. And like Marianne Williamson said, joy is what happens to us when we allow ourselves to recognize how good things really are. So wherever you are, whatever your station in life, whatever's happening to you in this moment, I want you to believe that accessing your joy, choosing it minute after minute, moment after moment, hour after hour, today can soften your day, can expand your gaze, can allow you to find a space of peace and happiness that you deserve. It doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter how difficult it may be. If you consciously tell yourself you're going to choose joy, it'll get sweeter. I know it will. It's happened for me 1,000 times. I'm choosing joy today. I hope that you do too. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.